Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Elevate Your Equity podcast, where investors with a special emphasis on couples begin, continue, and deepen their journey to financial freedom together using the powerful vehicle of real estate investing to do it. Today, we've got Mr. Hemal Badiani, and he is the Chief Executive Officer at Exponential Equity and responsible for the overall strategy and vision of ensuring its alignment with the mission of the company, transform lives through real estate. As the CEO, Hemal leads the firm's growth strategy to new markets and new asset classes, and he's accountable for the hiring and the marketing strategy for the firm as well, which is very important, we've been finding out. Prior to establishing Exponential Equity, Hemal provided management consulting services to several Fortune 100 companies across 3 continents while creating a portfolio of businesses that he scaled and exited, including an outsourcing company, private lending firm, and a residential real estate firm. And one other thing also, Hemal, that's on here that we should mention too is that you are a fellow GoBundance brother, which is incredible. Yeah. So great to have you on the show, Hemal. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. How about you guys?
We're doing awesome.
Great. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for inviting me here. And I'm super excited to be conversing about both life, real estate, and relationships and how journeys as a couple in terms of investments.
Wonderful. Well, let's dig right into it, Hemal. First of all, you are married, correct?
Correct. 17 years.
Wow. Congratulations. And you have some kids at home too, right?
Yep. 6-year-old twins.
Okay, cool. So let's jump in then. I want to find out, going way back in the past, or maybe not so far back, but tell us a little bit about where you got the spark to invest in real estate. How did that all happen at the beginning?
Yeah, I had an uncle back in India when I grew up. First 20 years of my life I spent in India, and he was super savvy in terms of buying pieces of land that made sense and holding it forever, and then looking into other development opportunities. So he's a big real estate developer there, and he was my inspiration. Along with I came from a family of business owners, so understanding a lean and mean process, understanding how to execute on a business plan. All of that was just part of the life growing up. So combining that and just starting with passive investments, but then eventually going active was just natural and inevitable.
Excellent. And so let me ask a little bit, I mean, you had that upbringing, right? But now you've got a wife and kids in the picture, or maybe you just had at the time a wife in the picture. What did your wife feel about all of this? Was she along with you, or was her family from a similar background as well?
Yeah, real estate excites her as well. The concept of, especially the passive side, when we were doing all passive investments only, just buying townhomes, and anybody can do the simple math, right? And we're simple people. So the fact that you can have something with leverage, just a little bit of your own money, and something comes out of it in terms of cash flow that not only pays your debts, but also some extra money and if you do that enough times, it can be significant. If you start with one small property or townhome, then it doesn't show up that much. But when you make it 5 or 10 or 20, then it really makes a positive impact to your family. That was a concept that we were both aligned to, fortunately. So we made a bunch of passive investments. Just, the simple rule, you do your job, stock up some cash, and rather than the ups and downs and loss of control that the stock market provides, we just decided to buy a bunch of townhomes, and nice fancy new ones, not going for distressed assets or any of the other elbow grease stuff that we now do. But it was just something that we can have less maintenance on, we can focus on our work, and it just earns some money. Over a period of 20-30 years, compound interest takes its own magic and works on it, and that was what excited us.
That's awesome. And I love how your wife is on board as well, and you guys it sounds like you're partners in life and in business and vision. And I was just curious how you both leverage each other's skills and superpowers.
Yeah, she is we both are alphas. We both wear pants in the family, so to speak. And she is extremely complementary to who I am in terms of, she's a visionary. I am kind of combined visionary and integrator. I like my processes. I think in a spreadsheet. I think in a PowerPoint deck. She has her own business. She's a fashion designer. She thinks really creatively and can make things and magic out of thin air. So it allows us to keep us both in a pace where, I'm the one that's more of the realistic, what can we achieve, what can we do, how do we plan for things, and she's the one that pushes the boundaries for our family to say, can we do that and more, and can we balance all of that and have everything, including vacations and time with each other and practices as a family, along with the core stuff of businesses, etc., that we handle. So it's been exciting. She employs the same level of work ethic that I do. After the kids are asleep, we both are hustling in the night, and both with our laptops most of the days, maybe a glass of wine. So it allows us to be in that same frequency of knowing that we're building different things, but together.
Hemal, how important would you say that it was that you had your wife on board with you during this journey? I mean, it sounds like you're both entrepreneurial in your own ways, but I'd like to talk about how you have used or leveraged each other for success in each of your businesses.
Yeah, it was different points in time where we both had to think about leaving our W-2s, and it brings a different dynamic in terms of having less predictable income, different dynamic in terms of work ethic, etc. So it took a lot of trust on each side to say, no, I know you can do this. I know you'll be successful in whatever endeavor you're trying to achieve into. And I am 100% there for you through the trials and tribulations and the navigational paths that you have to think about. And, you haven't seen, frankly, because you haven't done this full time. And so that I'm super grateful to her to support my journey from that perspective and continue doing that, because I work, 7 days a week. And,
Yeah, the life of the entrepreneur. I get it.
Exactly.
And Hemal, you mentioned you have 6-year-old twins.
Yes, boy and a girl.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's our dream. Yeah. And how do you and your wife balance being mom, dad, and entrepreneurs, business owners? And what are your kids seeing on a daily basis?
Yeah, they see the work ethic that we have employed, but also the fact that things that are important are on our calendars. I drive things by calendar, right? So everything that's important, including date night with my wife, including time spent with my kids, including the fact that I'm going to be the one, if I'm not traveling like I am today, I'm going to be the one dropping them off every morning. And that 20 minutes of conversation that we have on the road, in the car, that's super important. I'm the one that wakes them up every morning. So there are routines that we've established, along with anything that's priority, just put it on the calendar, including personal time that we're doing and taking. And that allows us to really treat it as another super important meeting that you should not be getting out of. And it's just a regular occurrence for us. So that's been super helpful. And the fact that this, when I transitioned from my W-2, and my wife did as well, to full-time business owners, that allowed us to have that flexibility to say, hey, as entrepreneurs, our mind never shuts off. We're going to be working 7 days a week. We're building something that take a long time to build, but establish something that would hopefully last for 30, 40, 50 years as a company, an organization, and a brand. But to that end, that's also a marathon that we're running. It's not a sprint. So how do we incorporate kids' winter festival type of choir singing, or a swim class, that if they're like, hey, daddy, you came to drop us, why don't you jump in? And the ability and the flexibility that allows us to have that, just managing our schedule, managing our time from that perspective. So we're super ruthless with our time management, and that's been the blessing that allows us to balance those things.
Yeah, great perspective there. I wanted to also highlight the fact that, well, I wanted to go back into your W-2 transition, right? Let's talk a little bit more about that. I mean, this is obviously a big milestone when it comes to business growth and everything. There's a misconception out there, and I'd like you to expand on this as well, that you have to quit your W-2 and then build a side business. Is that what happened with you, or did you have a side hustle for quite some time? What did the transition between W-2 and your side business or your business look like at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So I went through different journeys as one would expect in life, right? So first 15 years, I was in the management consulting space. This is before my kids were born. So I was living out of a suitcase, right? And flying to 3 continents, wining and dining clients, staying with them for 4 to 5 days a week, and just coming back home over the weekend. And so that was a different lifestyle, 80-hour weeks, not much time to do anything else. But the corporate ladder was amazingly fast to climb. The thrill was there to work with, everybody from Disney theme parks to the Vatican. And so who gives you such a diverse set of smart people doing different things, but also have different problems within their businesses or organizations that they want me to solve or help them solve. So that was a phenomenal journey of 15 years. Then the babies happened, conscious decision to be a great father, really reprioritize my life, allowed me to transition from the consulting arm of the business down to joining a financial institution. So I was a senior vice president with Wells Fargo for about 4 years, last 4 years, before I quit my job. And that 80-hour week now became 30-hour week with a nice assistant, small team. So I was able to outperform my role very easily compared to what I had to give in terms of investment of time and energy in the consulting space. So that allowed me to be really get bored and introspect, right? What competencies I've built, where do I come from, what do I really like? And so I experimented with different businesses as side hustle. The Wells Fargo job and the predictable income was there. So started with an outsourcing company, really scaled that and exited, and lending firm, residential real estate firm, etc. And what I found out was I'm not a new ideas guy, but if I find an idea that I like, I can truly build a company around it, really scale it super fast, run it like a Fortune 100 company, regardless of the size of the institution, really hire and build partnerships with very competent people and really bring about that culture and morale and all of the elements, the soft skill needed to make it a real team and a real company, and started honing those skills. So before my commercial real estate. And so when I landed in commercial real estate, I'm like, this is the perfect team sport. I can really scale it to a humongous organization and build a great team around it, which I naturally over 14 months did. And then there was a transition point where I said, well, I can build and expand on what I have. Do I have enough in terms of making sure my kids go to the private school, my family's fed, everything is done, but also the tax advantages that a full-time real estate professional provides? Can I take advantage of that from a long-term perspective? And what's the right transition point to quit? So it was a really planned out and thoughtful decision, but it was, it was burning the bridges. It was, I'm leaving, it's 2 weeks. I'm leaving in April so I can be a real estate professional for 8 months and enjoy the tax benefits, etc. So that was my journey. Now, there's no right or wrong. Some people do it, just jump in. Some people want to be similar to what I employed, and it's just how comfortable you are with risks, how much do you need to sustain yourself on a monthly basis, what does the next 6 months horizon look for you in terms of where you're trying to be and what's known and what's unknown in your business. There's so many factors that one has to think through. But I'm super glad I made the decision, and I'm so thrilled to have built it. After that, my journey has just been tremendous.
We're happy for you too, Hemal. We're
Yeah.
glad we get to talk to you because of that journey.
Oh yeah, wow, so impressive. And congratulations. That
Thank you.
is
Good work.
amazing. And
Yeah.
as I'm listening, you illustrate and you painted such a beautiful, vivid picture of your map from where you were. And really I wanted to highlight the element of lifestyle design, the vision that you have for what you want and you made it happen. Can you expand more on that? Like, what was the process as you were designing your life? Because I heard that if you wanted to jump into the pool with your kids, you could.
Yeah.
If you wanted to
Yeah.
fly somewhere, you could. And you can, for new people kind of maybe not exposed to that concept. Can you expand more about the processes, especially at the early stages?
Yeah, it's like Zen meditation. It's unless you experience that level of freedom and or are thinking about it, you don't understand what a true freedom from a 9 to 5 otherwise, because we are so institutionalized. I was in the corporate world for 20 years, and that's all I knew. And the beauty of those paychecks coming in, regardless of what you do and how productive or how much your output or outcome is, you don't realize how much you miss that, or how much you what's different out there. But the fact that you can really shape your entire day and your entire calendar to be on the road, to be with your family, to cater to emergencies with parents or otherwise, and really have the time freedom, because more than money or other elements, the time and energy is what, as we grow older, we get more and more conscious and more ruthless, as I say, about that part allows you to go up and down based on the seasons of your business in terms of devoting certain elements to it or certain elements to your family. That's the part that even when I quit, I didn't realize the full extent of it. And I was just working away. But then slowly and steadily, I started shifting to a place where it just more and more things with my kids became routine that I would have never dreamt of. 4 p.m. On a Tuesday in a swimming pool with my family every week. That's
Yes.
mind-boggling to Hemal. That was 2 years back even. So that is just incredible. And I'm still peeling the onion. What else is possible in terms of how I can design my life and how I shape my life? And I haven't figured everything out, but I'm excited that this decision that I made and the fact that I was planning for it for such a long time through my passive investments, and then through something that I really liked that I wanted to build, not just for the fact that I wanted to earn money, but I really liked building the commercial company and expanding on it that we're doing, and allows me to do more stuff that I enjoy or have more smiles on my face through the day and really balance with important people in my life where I want to spend my time. So that's just a phenomenal and incredible life that I'm living right now.
Let's talk a little bit about your superpower, which is scaling and building teams with empathy. At least that's what we were talking about a little bit before. So let's talk about how you're able to implement scale and build your teams with empathy. Can you give us some examples? Maybe something tangible that people can take home about how to scale from what you did.
Yeah, it's what I talk about is growth is the inversion of control, right? So if you think about a $10 million business and you own 100% of it, or a $1 billion business and you own 1% of it, the amount you own in terms of net worth is the same. But it takes a different level of capacity to operate a $1 billion business with systems and processes and trainings than a $10 million business, right? So, and different levels of hierarchy. So first thing you think about when you're thinking about scaling is where do you really want to be, right? Both from a competency capacity, a CEO of $1 billion company doesn't sleep essentially, right? They're always on the news and highlighting the firm. There's always some level of element that's going on, versus a small time business owner just doing their own thing. They don't need to be on social media. Otherwise, there's certain aspects that you can get away with versus not get away with, right? So that there's that vision aspect. Where do you want to be? Not just for your personal net worth and income, but how big do you want to have the business? And then you go step backwards and say, well, if you want that kind of business, are you going to be the solopreneur or the person just hiring people down there? And my philosophy is the natural evolution of life, and I'm speaking to a person in the medical field here, right? There's so many aspects of our human body that just work by themselves, right? And you trust your heart to do its thing. You trust your internal organs to do their thing. You don't have to control them. You don't have to manage them on a day-to-day basis unless something's wrong. And so I employ the same philosophy in terms of my business. And so I find good, competent people who are aligned to the values I have, aspire to the vision that I bring to the table on how we want to create a Fortune 100 type of organization that takes care of its people, that's lean and mean, flexible and nimble in the industry that we are in, etc. And then really build around that person's competency and put complete trust in that person to say, this is your division of the company and let's run with it, right? And so when you think about a large institution like Wells Fargo, where I worked, the head of accounting could own a few thousand shares of Wells Fargo, could be earning whatever, 7 figures or 8 figures, but is only responsible for running that division of accounting for the company, which provides in the whole wheel of Wells Fargo's businesses a lot of input, but they don't need to worry about all the other competencies, right? So you're staying in your lane, you're building different lanes. And so we have our acquisitions division, we are our new development division, we are expanding into property management, software, fund, construction management. That's kind of the vision for the company, to have those verticals and then have horizontal divisions around marketing and technology and administrative stuff that provide that intangible support, scalable support to all those verticals. So that's how I think. And that's where we are trying to build something that's different, because you can do 2 to 3 transactions in commercial real estate a year and you can have a nice company with nice profit. But rather than thinking like that, we want to really build something that's an actual company that performs like a company. And that's how we scale it.
Yeah, I love this answer, and it's awesome. But I think maybe there's an extra dimension that we can add to this, because I remember that you, the person, Hemal, at home, you have your wife, right? And your wife, as you mentioned before, is a visionary, and you're more of an integrator. And what's really funny is that my wife and I also share that same trait, where I'm the integrator as well, and Sophie's the visionary, and she's been the one that's been able to help push us along on some of the amazing things that we've been doing on the real estate side, and also on her own side in the medical. So I wanted to ask you if there was also a dynamic that your wife has been able to add as you've been scaling up, as you've been building your businesses, developing these lanes, building the processes for people to be able to plug themselves into, so that, like you said, you can scale and people can work on their own lane, right?
Yeah.
Has your wife brought any perspective? What's happened behind the scenes?
Yeah, she has been a true inspiration in terms of how she's managed her relationships, how she's scaled up to business where she's been able to go to New York Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week, and really represent her brand. So she's a true marketing and branding expert. So I'm still a student from that perspective of hers in terms of where I could be. When it comes to systems and processes, she's less into that. She likes the high level outcome and picture. And so that piece, with my 20 years of background in the consulting space and the financial space, that's what I can do, the tinkering and the know and the how of each individual's goals, KPIs. How do we want to bring together the company? What are the aspects of the company? So it's been a real tandem. We haven't yet experimented working together as a business owner. We're great life partners, but I think at this stage, our perception is if we work together in a business, we'd probably kill each other. So,
So we were chuckling because you were explaining exactly how our dynamic is. And
yeah,
it's
exactly.
just,
Yeah.
And sometimes actually that's such a good thing when it seems like they're polar opposite, but the complementary synergistic personalities, right?
Exactly. It becomes, Hemal, it becomes like an idea meritocracy. Like you're able to sit down and say, is this idea worthwhile, or why not? And do you have a better one? And so it really helps bring an extra dimension into the picture, and extra awareness too. Things you're like, oh boy, wow, that's a good point. I should think about doing something like that. And so modeling after each other's businesses, I think, is super, super important. And one of the things that we like to stress here is that business building should involve some form of input from your spouse. Even if they're not actively involved. I think that they have a lot to say about what's at stake, with the business in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think the way we complement each other is her intuition is impeccable. And so whenever I have any sort of doubt in a high level outcome perspective from a business standpoint, on a direction that our company is going, having her as a sounding board and her intuition to say one way or the other has just been 100% right for me. And then for her, it's been my thinking through the spreadsheets and processes. And, she's like, I want to do these million things. And I'm like, all right, well, let's write them down. Let's prioritize things, and let's put it in, important versus not important. How much can you delegate? And so that process helps her tremendously to kind of think on paper versus all the ideas that she has, which are just brilliant, right? So that's been the complementary stuff. And then even though our businesses are separate, the synergy around outcomes, right? We both love traveling, both independently and as a family. So, summertime, I was in Spain doing this whole Wim Hof Iceman thing for 5 days just by myself. And then when I came home, she went to Iceland for 10 days to backpack. And so the ability to have that flexibility, knowing that we have both as parental support to be there for the kids one at a time and still be enough in terms of, providing for the family and enjoying the time with the kids. And allowing that freedom that our businesses allow us to operate from anywhere, essentially. That's the piece that we keep ourselves aligned to and keep at the heart of what we're trying to achieve. And rather than the tactical elements of, whether my land purchase worked out or not, or those kinds of things, she's abstracted from.
And Hemal, can you share, kind of reflecting on your journey, can you share like a growing pain or a tough moment that perhaps you and your wife went through, and what mindset pillars you really held on to get you through those tough times?
Yeah, we've experienced a lot of ups and downs as a family. We took us a long time to have kids, so we went through personal failures there with miscarriages, etc. That was a tough time in our life. And this year we had lost our dog, who was been with us for 12 years. If anyone has a pet, you know what that takes out of you. And in the next day we were traveling with our kids, and had to explain it to them and be there on phone calls with businesses, etc. So what has helped us is, again, being super strong and being resilient on the long-term thing, having a great surrounding environment of people who have been very supportive, and knowing that in life, the ups and downs are just part of life, and it is what it is, and embracing the positive and the negative side, so to speak, knowing that it's taking us to a level that eventually we look back and we're like, oh my goodness, well, we had those painful years, but now we have these beautiful twins that we have a phenomenal time with, and we're loving every day from that life perspective. So those hardships were transitionary, and the fact that we've been around for 17 years as a couple, we literally grew up together, and through thicks and turns, and different levels of life, right? So we got married in early 20s, and that was, we were like kids, didn't have anything. We just graduated, and so everything from our first job down to where we are, we've taken those steps and journeys together.
Yeah, very, very cool. Thank you for the perspective there.
Yeah.
So one last question that I have, and maybe Sophie's got one after me, but it has to do more with your daily routines. Because now that you are in full control of your day, and you mentioned before that you like to have regularity or structure by bringing the kids to school, that's your thing. You wake them up, you bring them to school.
Yep.
I imagine that you're pretty much living close to your ideal day, but what does either your current day and or your ideal day look like to you, to Hemal?
Yeah, it starts early before the kids, a little meditative session to ground myself and where I want to be for the day and how I want to approach the day. Then just waking up in some silly fashion, my kids, and getting them ready, dropping them to school, having the meaningful conversations about life and everything there is, and just enjoying that ride, and coming back, Before that, going to a Starbucks, always a routine, get a nice latte, and then come home and just start work in my home office from 9 o'clock. So all my meetings on my calendar, etc. Everyone can only schedule things at least 3 to 5 days out, if not sometimes 2 weeks out. So it allows me to plan most of my day easily, leaving an hour or so for the spontaneous conversations that I need to have. And then, yeah, 9 to 3 o'clock or 3:30, or sometimes even after that, it's continuous conversations, building the business with little breaks in there to check in, maybe have some tea or coffee together with my wife, or lunch together with my wife 1 or 2 days. And the rest of the time is work. That's been the ideal day. And then evening, it's a workout day.
Okay, love it. So I lied when I said this was my last question, because I have one more. So you mentioned that there was a transition between townhomes and then commercial real estate. I know I wanted to touch on this a little bit earlier on, but we were having so much fun on mindset and couples and everything that we didn't get a chance to touch on this, but I want to make sure that we do. And I know that, going from townhomes to commercial real estate, that kind of hits at the heart of what scale is, or at least the asset type or the external world expression of what that means. Not to say anything about your internal business processes, but can you talk a little bit about how that transition happened from townhomes to commercial real estate?
Yeah, it was a great part of my journey as well. So I was liking what I was achieving through my retail residential real estate business. But when I was starting to do the math, I'm like, oh my goodness, it'll take me, 1,000 more times to do the same thing. And that just doesn't seem right. So what do I do, right? And this is when I had not thought about syndications or commercial or scaling from real estate perspective to that level. I would think, oh, I can buy 5 houses at a time, maybe, and so on, and maybe that would get it 100 times instead of 1,000 times, or something like that. So I was struggling, and there was a conundrum of where I wanted to go from my side hustle perspective, because it was a side hustle at that stage. So I hired a mindset coach, and the first call I had with the person there, he asked me to shut down my business. He's like, "You're not meant for this."
Man.
Yeah, and he's like, so I had 9 employees in my residential business, and he's like, you cannot go, if you're really looking to go from your senior vice president position to a CEO position, you're playing too small in your life, and you got to find something. You really have to climb down this mountain, because until you're in that mountain, you'll always be thinking about the money you're making, and it's going to be 10 years before you make the transition. So I found it super crazy, but I took his advice. I shut down my residential business 2 months before COVID hit. And I didn't know what to do. And so I was finding other avenues of, I was thinking about building a new hotel with a bunch of buddies, or other things that I could do to figure out what could work. And that's when I found out commercial real estate. So I wasn't thinking about building a business at that stage with commercial. Anyways, the first 3-4 months, I just invested in passively in 5 to 7 projects, and really dug into the competitive intelligence of how people do reporting, communication, property management, etc., along with a few events, etc., to really figure out and consciously be at a position to say, do I really want to build a business around this, or do I just want to passively invest 15, 20 times? And both answers are right, but I thought this one is something that I could scale and really be a CEO. I can feel it in my mind. I validated it with my coach, and he's like, there you go. It took you to climb down a mountain to find a new one, and now build your competency around it. And so September 1st, 2020, we bought our first 208 units apartment building, and it was just tremendous success for us, and that led to our journey now from 0 to close to 100 million in assets in like 14 months.
Incredible.
So I'm super grateful that I listened to his advice, and something in my heart said, Yeah, every ounce of my body says right now that this is the wrong thing to do, just cut off an income supply. But having had that, again, every time I've taken a step back in my life, whether it's any sort of retreats or any sort of, just slowing down purposefully, that has allowed me to accelerate over the next few months tremendously, or pivot to different lines of businesses or other things. And so I got to do more and more of that.
Wow. I just wanted to underscore, highlight, just really shine light on how you mentioned you have to climb down one mountain in order to find your mountain. And then also, when you mentioned just the how every ounce of your body told you this is the wrong thing to do because it wasn't the practical thing to do.
Yeah.
And XYZ. How do you have the courage to come all the way down and to reclimb all the way up? Like, can you share that? Can you share the process that you go through and all of the grit that you have to summon to be able to do that?
Yeah, you have to go through those levels of emotions and process them, right? You cannot escape. You have to suffer and say, oh my goodness, I just made the worst decision of my life. You have to go through that. You have to go through, now it's going to be okay. I am competent enough to figure something out. You have to go through, well, I have my backup, my job's already there. So it's not, yeah, I'm earning less money, but I'm also okay providing for my family as of now. So it's not a bad deal, and I'll figure it out. And so there was a whole process of really spending time with myself to not just shove those emotions under a carpet or a rug, and really kind of walk myself through what I'm doing here. And then, something in you, the intuition in you says, you'll be fine. You're doing the right thing. And as I think Alan Watts says it, the decisions are like hiccups. You never know where they come from, right? It's you think and think and think, and you figure out all kinds of variables, but at some point you just go one way or the other, and life just took me one way. So that's I try to stay open to those kinds of things and just process through it.
Sophie's heard me say this many times, and she's probably sick of me saying it, but you never really know what the bounds of your capacity is until you meet resistance or fear, right? And so until you get to the point where you're uncomfortable, you don't know that you've got what you have, right? And so I think what you said is a beautiful underscore, beautiful underpinning of where people may be sitting right now that maybe do have a side hustle. So they picked up some skills that are translatable in the marketplace, but maybe are missing that mindset piece, right? To be able to go out there and execute. And clearly taken from your example, Hemal, I just love what you said. Every time you took a step back and reevaluated, it led to a quantum leap. As a matter of fact, I think that's going to be the title of the show. But I think that reflection, the sitting in calm and stillness, translating to real success is a very powerful thing. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. My philosophy is if you know exactly what you're doing next, you're not aiming high enough.
That's
gotta
great.
stay in the uncomfortable zone time and again, and enjoy that ride, right? Enjoy the spectacular successes, spectacular failures that come along with it.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it.
Yeah, it's the struggle and the journey. I love that. Well, Hemal, I know that we could sit here and talk for hours and hours. And I wish that we can, and maybe we will after we stop hitting record. But what I want to do is I want to bring our show down to the final segment of the show, which is called our rapid round. And it's the same 5 questions that we ask every one of our guests. And so we're going to have you answer them in 30 seconds or less. And what we're going to do is we'll alternate the questions. So I'll have Sophie read question number 1, and then we'll go down the list.
Awesome. All right. So the first question is, what book has had the biggest impact on you and why?
Think and Grow Rich, and that's just the Bible for mindset more than anything financial. It's how you should think about, trick your brain to operate at a different level than where you are right now. And it can be applied to family, relationships, health, wealth, whatever you want. So it changed my life.
Yeah, great answer. Classic. Number 2, if people wanted to emulate your success, what do you think is the first actionable thing that they can do to follow in your footsteps?
I think put yourself in a position where you're just serving others, getting them to a place where they want to be in life. And as Zig Ziglar says, if you do that enough times, you'll be automatically successful. So
Yeah.
servant leadership is what they call it in the corporate world, but you truly need to embody yourself as the assistant to all the people that are working with you, working for you. And if you wake up every morning with that type of mindset, there's no reason but not to be successful.
Just be
Good. Very good stuff.
I can listen to you talk all day. Next question is, what small thing do most people not know about you?
I'm a great cook and a terrible dancer. I dance for the sole purpose of embarrassing my wife.
Very good. I do have to say too that you came up with that really fast, both of those things. It's
Yeah.
Question number 4. How do you like to unwind and restore your creative juices by yourself?
Yeah, I like music. I'm a big fan of music. One of the regrets or opportunities I have in my life is to learn a musical instrument. So that's part of the next couple of years of life I need to figure out. But then just me time. I'm a person that likes to just sit down, take 10 minutes, allow me to go through and observe what I have going on when I'm overwhelmed. And then travel. I love that life is ultimately a single player game, right? And the fact that I can, the places that I have traveled just by myself or in a capacity that I can be alone, and they've been amazing, from the Spanish mountains to Machu Picchu. That has been just brilliant for me to not only bring back 10 years of my life, but like I said, really, really, really take a step back, lose complete control of my schedule, complete control of everything else, and just slow down to the pace of how life should be lived, and enjoy that process of life. So that has been the best unwinding every few months or so that I've been able to achieve.
Cool.
Nice. And last question is, what is your favorite family vacation spot?
So far, the kids, with them growing up, it's been all-inclusive resorts of all kinds.
Yeah.
with the nannies or babysitters or some level of kids clubs that allows my wife and I to spend some time with the kids. But as they're growing up, we really have a hefty, like a huge schedule of things and places we want to be, from Alaska's cruises to European islands to Asia, a lot of places that we want to hike and take the kids with us. And so it's just a never-ending thing. I think we've been to probably a couple of dozen countries so far in terms of vacations, and out of the 200, there's at least 160 more that we want to go to. So.
That's cool. Is there a list somewhere that you guys have?
Yeah, we're keeping a small list for 2022 on where, yeah, exactly. Spreadsheets and PowerPoint. Name of the game.
I totally get it, man. I am definitely in your world. So this has been really, really fun, Hemal, and you've been a very big inspiration to many people out there who are maybe looking to escape their W-2 and starting to build some of those side skills up. So thank you for coming on the show and being an awesome example for them, and also for those spouses out there as well, seeing how they can support their significant others.
Well, thank you so much for inviting. Super grateful to be here.
Of course. And one last thing before we go, Hemal, how can people find out more about what you do or get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can touch base through my email, Hemal, Hemal, at exponential-equity.com. That's our company, exponential-equity.com. Check us out there, and keep appraised of our projects. What are we doing? We're also building an exponential foundation, and we'll be giving back through the world of real estate with tax foreclosure elements and climate change elements, etc. So we're really excited on what we can do to impact, not only build, but impact and give back.
Excellent. Well, thank you, sir, once again for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah,
And for you,
likewise.
yeah, absolutely. And for you listeners who have made it to this point in the podcast, just want to thank you. And please, wherever you are, please like, comment, subscribe, whether you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube. We want to hear more from you and discover what it is that you want to hear from us more of. We feel like we're putting out fantastic content, but we're always looking for feedback, and we want to have more amazing people like Hemal on the show. And so your participation in that process will help us appease the algorithm gods so that we can continue to move up the search trains, that we can get exposure to more people and more guests, and just do more good overall. So please, we'd really appreciate that. And also for the listeners out there, if you want to learn more about commercial real estate, please head over to our website at Elevate Equity. And head over there. There's tons of free materials on how to start your business and start to think about commercial real estate as a passive investment, or even get some coaching. We have a bunch of that on our website for you. So that being said, Hemal, thanks again so much for coming on the show, and love what you're doing and everything. And thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And that being said, this is Derek.
And this is Sophie.
We're signing off for the day. Thanks, everyone. Take care.